All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Omar Kashad. I'm one of the adult services librarians here at the Carroll Stream Public Library. I'm glad that all of you were able to come out here today. Today's presentation is on Medicare 101, and today's presenters are David and Lori Wiley. And so without further ado, I will hand it over to them.
Wow, that was brief. That was really good. Lori, why don't you give us some housekeeping tips here about what we're doing here tonight?
So hopefully everybody's been on a Zoom before, but I'm going to be managing the chat throughout. So there's a little message bubble that you can enter questions in. If your questions are specific to you, I'll probably answer them directly through the chat. You can message me directly with personal questions. But if they're something that I think would be helpful to address to the whole group, I'll probably save the question until we take a little break. Definitely, this program is going to be much more fun for us and much more valuable for you if you ask questions throughout the program. So do not wait and hold your questions to the end. Keep them coming throughout.
Good, very good. I would start by simply saying good evening, everybody. Welcome. Appreciate you coming here tonight. What we want to do here tonight is we commonly call this Medicare 101, but I also refer to it as giving you enough information to make you dangerous. In a world where you might feel a lot like this little guy here, as you approach Medicare, many of you here tonight may have already be on Medicare, and that's a beautiful thing. Thanks for learning a little bit more about Medicare. But if you're new to it, you're going to be realizing at about 64 and a half as your mailbox begins to fill up. And every insurance company that wants to sell you products is going to be sending you information. Most of them will call you on the phone. It's not even surprising these days that they'll come and even knock on your door because everybody knows you're turning 65 and they put the bum's rush on you. This is a world that Lori and I refer to as a world of partial sentences and half-truths and floating asterisks that you wouldn't even know were there if you didn't educate yourself and start to come up to speed. Unfortunately, most people don't. Most people kind of do what their neighbor did or their brother-in-law told them about or the guy at work recommended something that they should do. And that's seldom the right choice. What we're all about is making fully informed decisions. What Lori and I do, we're both insurance brokers. That means we represent all the companies in the marketplace. But we're not here tonight selling anything. What we're here tonight is to educate you, hopefully get you up to speed, and hopefully have you understand that maybe there's even more information that you might want to delve into with Lori and myself or some of the people that we work with. As brokers, we represent all the companies in the marketplace, and that's very important because what we'll see here tonight, competition and capitalism, when kept in check by the new sheriff in town, which is going to be Medicare, that can be a very effective way to manage costs and help keep costs down as we age. All of that stuff that's coming into your mailbox, sorry, but it's advertising. That's all it is. It's happy, smiling people that are very thin on details and big on smiles. What you really want to get your hands on as you approach this world is the Encyclopedia of Medicare. This comes from CMS, that's the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, and they will become your new best friend because they want you to make fully informed decisions. They want to help you manage your healthcare costs as you age, but you need to take advantage of what they're offering. This Medicare and You book comes out every year, and it's the Bible of my industry, chock full of great information. We joke. It does two things incredibly well. Full of information, it's also a great sleeping aid. If you have trouble dozing off, this will knock you down in pretty short order. It's a dry read. It's also written, I would say, in very vanilla form, meaning they're giving answers that are broad answers to just about every kind of question, but frequently it doesn't give you the specifics you're looking for. We'd love to help you in that regard. You could use this book. You could also avail yourself of the world's easiest phone number, 1-800-MEDICARE. Write it down. They're there 24 hours a day, except for 6 national holidays. And at like 2 in the morning, they're waiting for your call. And you can get great customer service. You always know that when they give you their first name and their last name. But you also want to know, these guys are not going to call you proactively. They'll wait to hear from you, and they'll certainly return your call if they say they're gonna, but be very leery of the phone calls that you're going to get from people intimating that they're with Medicare. They've been assigned to your account. They want to help you to enroll. That's baloney sausage. And that is just going to get riled up here as we head for the annual election period. That happens every year from October 15th through December 7th. And it's a chance to make customization changes to your Medicare plan, but be wary of the phone calls that you get, the mail that shows up, and be particularly careful of the websites that you visit, because they're going to capture your information and they're all going to pummel you as well. The one website that I would recommend, hands down, Medicare.gov, G-O-V. Please note that. I don't know how they ever even let Medicare.com come to market. Medicare.com is a sales site. Medicare.gov is the federal government. These are all drop-down menus, chock full of great information. You can order that book we talked about, Medicare and You, down here at the bottom. You can even find different services that are covered, doctors that provide them. And most importantly, every year at this point in time, starting October 15th, you have the right to change your drug program. You may have made decisions when you first came to the world of Medicare, and you might not be aware that you might have made mistakes. But the good news about Medicare is that it's totally customizable to what you want it to be, and we can change it through the aging process. And this window here that's going to open October 15th through December 7th, it's the open enrollment period. And that's frequently associated with all the commercials on TV screaming at you about the big changes to Medicare. There are seldom big changes to Medicare, but that's a sales tactic they're going to get you to call them. They're going to send you mail that says your coverage may be ending. It's not ending. Anything that you've got is typically going to roll over to the next year, probably last week and this week, and certainly the beginning of next week. If you're currently in Medicare, you will have received your annual notice of change. This is where everybody that's got your insurance has to tell you what's going on for the next year. Notably, that's the drug programs and the Advantage programs have to send out annual notices of change, because those are on a calendar year basis. Everything will renew January 1st for the next calendar year. Supplements will not do that, because supplements simply roll over year to year without major changes. There can be price increases, but supplements are on a different timetable. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. I understand that this Medicare thing can be confusing. It comes at you pretty quickly, and it's a multi-headed monster. Most people that come to Medicare, they're coming off a group health insurance program from their employer, and that's a wonderful benefit. But what that is a one size pretty much fits most program, and the employer comes to you and says, here it is, take it or leave it. That's pretty much your choice. And everything that went into that program, the drug program, the network, the deductibles, the co-insurance, the co-payment, the wellness benefits, all of that has been predetermined for you. And it's pretty simple. Take it or leave it. Of course, you're going to take it. It's a great benefit. But it doesn't prepare you for this world of Medicare, where now you need to make these choices. Overwhelming at first, but understand, a program totally customizable to what you want it to be individually, and we can change it from year to year. There's a great level of flexibility if you'll take advantage of that. What is Medicare? Pretty simply, it's the government insurance program for people who have retired. Usually that was people 65, but the baby boomers now are waiting longer and longer to jump into the world of Medicare. But understand that Medicare is different from Social Security. These are two different programs for people in their retirement. Medicare is the medical portion. Social Security, well, that's where they give you back less money than you ever gave them in the first place, right? But in this world, understand that Medicare is for folks 65 or older. As long as they've worked at least 40 quarters, they're entitled to get Medicare. A and B will form the foundation. We'll see here tonight, A and B really good, but A and B not complete. And that's the takeaway from this slide right here. Original Medicare was never designed to cover 100%. You were always expected to have skin in the game. Deductibles, co-insurance, co-payments, things that you would want to be aware of as you move into this new world. And that's what we want to talk to you here about tonight. A and B good, but A and B not complete. And what are we going to do about that exposure that we have with just having original Medicare? This is where your journey would typically begin. For your mom and dad, certainly this would more than likely be the first day of the month in which they turned 65. That seemed to always be the finish line, right? You'd turn 65, you'd retire, you'd get your gold watch, you'd take the grandkids fishing. But the baby boomers are driving tremendous changes in this market. One of the most notable changes is they're waiting to retire. And this presents the first pothole that we could fall into without making a fully informed decision in the world of Medicare. A and B form the foundation of our coverage. A and B good, but A and B not complete. A and B cover us for different stuff, and we're going to tear that apart in a second. But understand, A has no premium. It covers you for all of your facilities, all the buildings that you're going to come into contact with. Part B, though, does have a premium. And for many people who continue to work, and where they work, there's more than 20 people that work there. That's a critical number. More than 20 people work there. If you continue that health insurance through that employer, that's deemed what's called creditable coverage. And creditable coverage is a key term. It would allow you to avoid activating Medicare A or B. You could hold off. Many people think, oh, well, they're automatically going to send me the card. No, in most cases, they don't. The only way they'll automatically send you the card is if you've qualified for Medicare via disability, you've been declared disabled for more than 24 months, they'll go ahead and send you the card. Or if you've already started your Social Security benefit payments, and they can automatically snatch that Part B. Otherwise, they're going to wait for you. And a lot of baby boomers will listen to their friends and family, and they'll be berated into believing that you've got to activate Medicare, or there's going to be major penalties, big problems, and trouble down the road. That's an example of a partial sentence or a half truth, all folded into one. The fact of the matter is, if you've got creditable coverage, you wouldn't need to activate Medicare A or B. You could hold off, and we'll wait for you. No penalties. Further down the road, 68, I had a gentleman, I think my record is 85, finally retired, and only then did he activate his Medicare Part B, and that was smart. We see an awful lot of people who come to this world, listen to their friends and family, they're told they have to activate this, and only come to the realization, well, right now we're working with a couple. He's 90. He's been on his wife's insurance since he turned 65. He never needed to activate Part B, and he just found out about that. Well, he's been paying a Part B premium now for 25 years for something he did not need because he was on his wife's coverage. It was creditable coverage, and he could have delayed activating that Medicare Part B. A typically can't hurt you. It's no premium on Part A. The only reason you'd want to hold off on that maybe is if you have a health savings account. I'll let Lori touch on that in a second. But this Part B, we want to be very, very specific in what you're going to do as you're going to move forward. Our parents all retired at 65. Most baby boomers are working past that mark now. They like the money. They like the socialization. They certainly enjoy the benefits. And we want to be careful to be sure what we're doing. And we'd like to have a clubhouse meeting at least 3 months out from your 65th birthday. Medicare could go into effect the first day of the month in which you turn 65, or you might miss it and you'd be in the month that you turn 65, at which point it would go into effect the very first of the next month. But be careful as you wait in these next 3 months of your initial enrollment period. Understand there are delays if you wait to activate your Medicare Part A and B. In a world where you could potentially have timing delays, we always want to be ahead of the curve, not behind the curve, okay? Lori, you got any questions?
Yeah, so great question. Do you have to have Part A whether or not you stay on your employer coverage? And actually, the answer to that is no. Most people will activate Part A, but you do not have to. There's actually a category of people who would not want to activate Part A, and David talked about it. It was if your employer coverage is what's considered a high deductible health plan, and you're currently contributing to something called a health savings account, you actually would not want to even activate Part A, because doing so would negate your ability to continue to contribute to your HSA. And I just had a conversation with somebody about this today, whose wife turns 65 in November, but is a teacher or works for a school district and is going to plan to continue working and have benefits through August of next year. Well, she wants to continue to contribute to her HSA. And so I recommended that his wife not even activate Part A for a November 1st start date, even though she turns 65 in November.
Yeah. Everything in the world of Medicare is done individually. And this is one of the things that will throw you a little bit, because you're bringing a under 65 mindset to a new world, this world called Medicare. I would put forth to you, it's a better world. It's a more understandable world if you'll educate yourself about it. But where your entire life, you've been a couple, family, always been together, and now Medicare, wait a second, everything goes individually? Yes. Husband is different than wife. In that world, they could both go to Medicare together, or they might split up. And you would find, it's not unusual, that when the spouse continues to work, but the other spouse is not working and they're on the employer plan, we always want to take a look at that. Most people would think, gosh, we pay $500 a month through the employer for our insurance. The simple thought process would be that's $250 on her and $250 on me. But you could be wrong. Most employer plans love the employee and they bring along the spouse. And it's not unusual that it's about a 70-30, maybe even a little bit more split between the husband and the wife, meaning the husband could continue to work or the wife could continue to work and the spouse could split off. In that situation, $500 and the employee pays $150 and the spouse is actually responsible for $350 a month on the employer plan. Boy, we should take a look at Medicare, because we could split off the spouse, and for far less, in most instances, for far less than $350 a month, we could improve their coverage dramatically. So that's always a good time for a clubhouse meeting. Let's figure out what we want to do as we approach 65. A has no premium, and if you kept your employer plan, you could typically activate A, and it would just ride shotgun with your employer plan still being primary. But it could be that this hospitalization benefit could be good for you. You just give them both cards if you went to the hospital. It's their job to coordinate that benefit. But this Part B, we got to be careful of B, because B does have a premium. That base premium per person per month this year is $148.50. But this Medicare thing, it's pretty darned expensive, and the government is looking for how they can gather more money to finance Medicare. And as you might suspect, they look to the rich and successful among us to earn more, pay more. I think we've all heard that as we were kids. The more you make, the more they take. What's happening here is the government is looking to collect more revenue. And they're only being able to look at their computers to judge on how to get that money. And note that their computers are always a step behind. In 2021, they only have visual on your 2020 returns. Your 2020 returns actually report what you made in 2019. Well, that's a 2-year look back, not a combination of those 2 years, but they're looking specifically at 2019. And if, as a married couple, you made less than $176,000, then you pay the base premium of $148.50 and everybody goes home happy. But as you start to make more, you can see where they bracket up the income and they will start to charge you more for the Part B premium. It's called IRMA. We love our acronyms. It's your income-related monthly adjustment amount. IRMA, your favorite Aunt Irma, is based upon MAGI, your modified adjusted gross income. And people are making decisions here at 63, 64, 65. They keep waiting to activate Medicare, but they're making money, or they're taking money out of their 401k to pay off the condo or go on that dream vacation or help a kid through college. That's a taxable event. Selling stocks at a profit, that's a taxable event. We work with people all the time who say, I've never made this kind of money before in my life. Yeah, but remember when you cashed out all those 401ks and put them into a Roth conversion? Seemed like a really good idea at the time, but be careful. You're making financial decisions that could have a sonic boom effect. Not only are they going to charge you more on the Part B, they're also going to kick you a little bit on the Part D drug program as well. Nowhere near as usurious, but it's more than you would pay if you were able to keep your income below this threshold limit. I love my government. I just don't want to give them one more nickel than they're already taking. Be aware of what you're doing so that we don't venture into these higher amounts. But what if you do? Well, okay, the government's looking at it every 2 years. It'll roll off eventually, but they also allow for an appeal process here. If you're no longer making this kind of money due to a life-changing event, that's another term they love, life-changing event. Well, the number one life-changing event is a reduction in your work hours or a retirement. And that's important to keep your eyes on that. You may have killed it in 2019, did great in 2020, but now it's 2021 and you're not making this kind of money because you've retired. They don't know that. They're still looking at 2019, but there's a formal appeal process. We can send you the paperwork. It's pretty simple, but as long as you can prove that you're no longer making these kind of dollars, they will indeed lower this down, both on the B and the D. Not to worry, it'll take them, a couple of years and they'll figure it out. Yeah, but I don't want them to figure out in 2023 that I was paying too much in 2021. We need to let them know about what's actually going on today and file an appeal process. There's 4 parts to Medicare. We could spend an hour on each of them. We don't want to do that tonight. We want to make you dangerous enough to know that there's more questions to ask. A and B, that's going to form the foundation. It's between you and the federal government. After you've got A and B, you might look to additional coverage because we're going to find A and B good, but not complete. We certainly want to add a drug program, and we might be intrigued by these things called Advantage programs. These are all-in-one packages. This is what Joe Namath is advertising on TV. We're going to look at those as well. But everything that we do is going to be predicated upon having Medicare in primary position. A and B is going to form the foundation. Omar should have sent this out to you guys. If not, we'll get you the printouts later on down the road. But this is the first of the 3-page handout that we typically use at every presentation, the roadmap of Medicare. We love it because it's simple. So much of what you get in the world of Medicare, I always laugh to myself. If you've ever seen Medicare for Dummies, it's 419 pages long. How dumb could it be? Let's keep it simple. Here we see that A and B would stand in primary position. A and B, we're going to tear that apart in a second. But once you realize it doesn't cover everything, realize you have 2 different pathways to potentially travel. One pathway called Original Medicare, comprised of 3 components, A and B primary, a supplement, and a drug program, or this other opportunity called Medicare Advantage, a different idea where Advantage combines all 3 parts of Medicare into one single card, one single company, one single program. Both have their benefits, both have their negatives, but they're different. Here, the federal government stands in primary position. Here, a private insurance company is going to step in. Generally speaking, if you look at Advantage programs, 2 things that you want to understand: more network restrictive and co-payments for services, but that's not necessarily a bad thing if you fit into the program's parameters. My fear and my concern is far too many people do Advantage programs without fully understanding what they've done. We want to talk about that here tonight too. But before we describe one pathway or the other, the benefits, the negatives, let's tear apart Original Medicare. Let's see what we're getting from the federal government for our $148.50. A and B form the foundation. A has no premium. A, if there was one word for A, it would be facilities. All of the buildings that you're going to come into contact with, all the structures are going to come up under Medicare Part A. Well, certainly, if we're talking about healthcare, no building is more important than the hospital. But spoiler alert, the hospital's not free if all you have is Original Medicare. You have a co-payment that you're responsible for. Under A, there's skilled nursing, and that's a wonderful benefit. You can't go home right away, but you also don't need an MRI machine on every floor or an emergency room downstairs losing money. A skilled nursing facility is less expensive, and Medicare likes that, but you still could potentially have a copay. Home health care services, this is wonderful. Medicare provides for medical services right to your front door. They'll help you get back on your feet. and hospice is the end of our journey. We ostensibly have a shorter period of time to live, and Medicare picks up most of that as well. A has no premium. I always get a kick out of agents when I hear them say it's free. It's not free. You paid a boatload in taxes. They just don't charge you more when you come to the party. A has no premium, but it certainly has what we call exposure. And that's what this is. That copayment for one night in the hospital this year, if all you have is original Medicare, that's $1,484. That's on you for one night in the hospital. But before you completely wig out on that, understand that $1,484 would actually cover you for up to 60 nights in the hospital. Continues to cover you upon discharge for that 60-day period. So we talk about going into the hospital for an appendectomy. You went in, you were in there for 2 nights. First night, you own the $1,484. The second night, you're covered because you've activated your benefit window. 2 nights, it all went well. Good news. You go home. Bad news. 3 weeks later, you got nothing better to do. You decide to have a heart attack and go back into the hospital. Yeah, but if it's within that 60 days, you're within your benefit period. They won't charge you the $1,484 again. But beware, on day 61, boop, whole thing resets. You could potentially hit this several times in a year if you timed it just right. No premium, but exposure that you're responsible for if all you have is A. Check into a skilled nursing facility. This is terrific, 24-hour care. They bring you your meals. The physical therapist comes right to your room. And Medicare likes that because without all of the overhead of the hospital, skilled nursing facility is far less expensive. And Medicare says, cool, we got you for 100 nights. That's your benefit. Terrific. The first 20 nights would be no charge to you. Watch out for the asterisk. That asterisk says, as long as you've spent at least 3 nights in the hospital, then the skilled nursing, the first 20 days, no charge to you. But you stay longer, and the next 80 nights in that skilled nursing benefit, there is a copayment of $185.50 per night for those additional nights. That can get spendy. Understand, Medicare, they don't pay for long-term care insurance. That's a different. Long-term care insurance is a different animal. That's for when you can no longer perform functions of daily living and you need somebody to help you through the day. That Medicare doesn't pay for that. They'll get you back on your feet and they'll get you home, but they're not coming over to mow the lawn or do the dishes. That's where long-term care insurance comes through. And if you haven't talked to your financial planner about that, you probably should. Home health services, wonderful benefit, but by definition, home health is limited in duration and major stuff. They're not just coming over to check in on you. They're coming over for wound dressing or administration of medications or perhaps a handful of physical therapy visits, but their job is to get you back on your feet and out the door to see doctors where they are, not where you are. And there's no charge for that. It's a wonderful benefit. And hospice, I put down 5%, but that's hardly fair. Medicare picks up almost everything, but there can be a very small copayment for the medications you take to remain comfortable before you pass away. A, no premium, but beware. If all you have is original Medicare, you're looking at exposure, things that you're responsible for. Well, what about B? B does have a premium. The base premium, $148.50, graded for income. The more you make, the more you take. Be forewarned. The reason we charge a premium on Medicare Part B is this is the lion's share of what you're actually going to be using on a regular basis. If A is all of your facilities, B is all of your services, all of your labor charges, all the doctors that you see and all the specialists, whether you saw them in the hospital or in their office, they're billing up under B. There was an anesthesiologist, knocked you out so a surgeon could operate on you. Wait a second, that happened in the hospital. Agreed. But that $1,484, that's the facility charge. That's the gurney, the bright lights, the operating theater. All of the labor charges are coming up under Part B. All of your lab work, everything from a blood test to a biopsy. All of your diagnostic testing, EKG, EEG, MRI, CAT scan, X-ray, stress test, all coming up under B. Get out of the hospital, maybe you need a walker or a wheelchair, or maybe you got a brand new knee or a pacemaker. These would all be examples of DME, durable medical equipment, your COPD machine, your diabetic insulin, the supplies that are utilized for diabetes, the monitoring, stuff like that, all coming up under B. All of your physical therapy, your ambulance that takes you to the emergency room, all of your outpatient services, and that's basically anything that has you in and out on the same day. Everything from a colonoscopy to a cataract. They're even doing knee replacement, full knee replacement surgery now on an outpatient basis. It's crazy, but you didn't spend the night. You didn't get tagged for the $14.84, but rest assured there's a facility charge. Clinical RX is the last part of B, and this is critically important. These are the big ticket, scary items from a medicine standpoint. Chemotherapy, kidney dialysis, radiation treatment, big items. Medicare's got your back. This is different than the medications that you're getting at Walgreens for high blood pressure or Julasco for cholesterol. Those are going to be part of our Part D drug prescription discussion. We'll have that in a second. But these clinical RX things, these are the real scary ones. But you always want to ask your doctor, are there alternatives? Sometimes there's very expensive prescription meds that you may also potentially have delivered in the doctor's office. Why would we do that? Well, in the drug program, we have this thing called the coverage gap or the donut hole. And we'll talk about that in a second. But that's directly related to the retail value of your drugs. You can sometimes find rate relief instead of getting a prescription and taking it from Walgreens or Julasco. You might have the same type of medicine delivered in a doctor's office, an outpatient surgical center, or possibly in the hospital, and it could potentially run you far less money to bill it up under Medicare Part B. Admittedly, a hassle going to the doctors is not as fun as just taking a prescription at home, but financially, it's part of making a fully informed decision. Doc, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? What are my options? Always want to ask those questions and stay fully engaged. A and B have exposure. We saw A has you reaching into your pocket, basically on a do this, pay that basis. B is structured differently. B has an annual deductible after which there's cost sharing. And that's what this looks like. On your Part B charges, the first $203, that's your annual deductible on all this stuff. And if you can wrap your mind around that, you're better than I am. I'm on this thing they call the Affordable Care Act. I have a $7,000 deductible. And oh, by the way, Lori's got a $7,000 deductible too. And for the privilege of which we each pay $1,000 a month. Wrap your mind around that for a moment. That's the reality. That's the going rate. That's the market value of the insurance that's in that outside world. A $203 deductible, almost impossible to envision. That's certainly, you couldn't find a doctor for charging you less than that. I don't think you could find a blood panel that retails for less than $200, but that's it. First 203, that's on you. And after that, Medicare's going to step in and start splitting bills with you. They're going to show up and they're going to pick up 80% of the bill and hold you responsible for 20% of the bill. And if that wasn't good enough, and that's awful good, it's actually even better because once you've paid your 203, Medicare takes their negotiated discount. And if you've ever seen a Medicare bill, you start to realize that the government is paying pennies on the dollar. It's not unusual. Your cardiologist says, I'm brilliant, I charge $350. Medicare says, you're adorable, we pay $80. After you've met your annual deductible on that $80 charge, you're responsible for 20% of the $80. That's only $16 to see a specialist. It is that good. It's hard to fathom how good it is. It's an unlimited benefit. It's amazing. You need 5 knee replacements. These guys are going to pay for 5 knee replacements. But wait a second, there's a catch. There's always a catch. In this world, the unlimited benefit is accompanied by unlimited exposure. What does that mean? Well, that means on those 5 knee replacements, every 61 days, they're going to want another $14.84. Stay longer in the skilled nursing, they're going to want $185.50 per night. Hospice benefit, I hope you never need it. A $203 deductible is next to nothing. But wait a second, you said unlimited 20% on everything that I do? Yep, that's what original Medicare is. 80-20, but you're responsible for 20. And unlike your employer plan, unlike other types of insurance, there's no firewall. There's no stopping it. There's no maximum out of pocket. It just rolls on and resets every year, January 1. So this is a scary concept for a lot of people because we all have friends and family who've been in the hospital for a very short period of time, and they've rung up tens of thousands of dollars in bills. And even after the Medicare negotiated discount, that can still be a healthy chunk of change, and they're going to look to you for 20% of that. Now, in and of itself, this coverage, what you get with A and what you get with B for $148.50 is a steal. It's a great, great value. And you may ask yourself, if you understand the true cost of medical, how do they do it for $148.50? Easy. They don't. The government's dropping north of $850 a month on every single person that's in Medicare. They ask us for a relatively minor contribution, the basic $148.50, but they're making up the difference with tax dollars. That's why they're looking to charge you more for the Part B and more for the Part D if you're making significant income. That's why the taxes here keep going up. And people can't quite wrap their mind around the fact, and we'll get complaints every year. It's actually pretty cute. I'm not picking on anybody, but last year, the Part B premium was $144. And I swear to goodness, we had people calling to complain that it went from $144 to $148.50. And I chuckle, and I'll certainly soothe their furrowed brow. But if you knew what this stuff was costing in the open market, it would blow your mind how good this is. This Medicare is phenomenal, but it's not complete. Laura, you got some questions?
Yeah, I was going to say there's a couple of things that, kind of to point out. First of all, on the charts that David is showing with the dollars and cents of Medicare A and B, part of the handout package that I sent Omar had the costs, your out-of-pocket exposure for 2021. Everything on that page will change in 2022. This 203 deductible, that's likely going to go up $5 or $8. On Part A, the out-of-pocket exposure as far as the hospital copayment, the skilled nursing copayment for days 21 to 100, those are also going to change slightly in 2022. We won't even know what those dollars and cents are until probably sometime in late October or early November. Medicare will publish that information on their website. So that's important to note. The big changes to Medicare that these insurance companies like to tout are really $5, $6, $8, $10 amounts that may go up every year. So certainly there's a change, but it's not like these costs are doubling and tripling like they are scaring you into thinking. Second, we did have a question about folks that are on the Affordable Care Act, and are they required to go on Medicare when they turn 65? And the answer is yes to that. Unfortunately, and especially this year where the administration has really thrown a lot of money in the form of subsidies at these Affordable Care Act plans, people really want to stay on them because in some instances going on Medicare may actually cost them more if they're getting a pretty hefty subsidy. But part of what helps Medicare to continue to run successfully is that those that are eligible jump in and start paying their fair share, if you will. So yes, anybody that's on the Affordable Care Act, including David and I, we're on the Affordable Care Act. When we turn 65, we're going to have to jump on Medicare as well. And then also just kind of a comment, because one of the other things that happened quite a bit during COVID is that people got furloughed and lost jobs. And one of the things that employers did was allowed people to go on COBRA and as a benefit paid for their COBRA. The thing that is super important to know, if your employer offers COBRA and you think, well, maybe I'll ride COBRA instead of go on Medicare, COBRA is not considered creditable coverage. And in fact, if you did ride COBRA and something did happen, you will be dreadfully surprised when the bills start rolling in, because COBRA is not going to pay as primary, it's going to pay as a secondary carrier, because COBRA is going to assume that you jumped on Medicare. And they don't care whether you did or you didn't, they're going to assume you did. And if you didn't, man, you're going to have some big bills to have to pay off. We've had some people burned by riding COBRA over age 65. COBRA is fine under 65. If you lose a job and you're 63 or 64, or your spouse retires and the other spouse is 64 and wants to ride COBRA until they turn 65, that's a different story. That's fine. But if you're 65 or over, you've got to get off COBRA and get onto Medicare.
Yeah, or at least have Medicare in place in conjunction with the COBRA.
Correct.
This A and B really good, but A and B not complete. We beat that with a stick. Well, what are we going to do about this additional exposure? Can you help? Of course we can. And you don't have to do this alone. Medicare will help you. We'll gladly help you. But you'd want to know that in addition to original Medicare, there's two different pathways that you can travel to start to wipe out some or all of this exposure. This first pathway has three parts. A and B standing in primary position. What do we like about that? Well, first of all, you got the new sheriff in town, Medicare. They're telling all these companies how they can run their programs. It's up to them how to price them, how to make a profit, but Medicare sets the parameters of engagement. With original Medicare, you have the largest provider network you could have, best one known to mankind. It's a PPO. It's any doctor, any hospital, anywhere in the United States, they take Medicare, you're in. And in this world, we have the ability to pick up additional coverage to support us for what A and B don't cover. And the first stop on that hit parade is to look at a Medicare supplement. Supplements are packages of benefits that stand in support of your new original Medicare is your primary coverage. People have a tough time wrapping their mind around that, and I get it. Your entire life, up to 65 or beyond, I'm with Blue Cross, she's with Humana, he's with Cigna, I'm with Aetna, I gotta stay with Aetna. I can't go outside the Aetna network or I'm gonna get killed on a network. Well, now your network is Medicare. And I don't care how good your network is with your employer, Medicare blows it away. Because with Medicare, you now have a vastly superior network of doctors and hospitals. It's huge. This Medicare supplement world, we currently have 38 companies that want your business. The beauty of the system is there's robust competition, complete transparency, and the new sheriff in town is telling these guys how they can sell these products. It's not up to the insurance companies anymore. They want to sell Medicare supplements. They got to do it by Medicare rules. Medicare has three major rules when you first come to Medicare. When you first activate that Part B, you start what we call your golden ticket. 6 months before you activate B, 6 months after you activate B, all of these supplement companies got to take you. There's no underwriting, there's no medical questions, there's no pre-existing conditions. They all got to take you. Rule number one. And they say, yeah, we can do that. Rule number two, you sign up with one of the companies in one of these programs that Medicare has designed. They can never drop you. You're theirs and they're yours till the day you die, or we find a better alternative option further down the road. And they're like, okay, we can do that. And rule number three, which is critically important, you can never be singled out for a rate increase. You would go into a risk pool with everyone that had similar coverage in a similar area, and all those claims are shared by everyone that's in that risk pool. We're going to show you that in a second, but the idea here is that guaranteed issue can never be dropped, can never be singled out for a rate increase. This is Medicare protecting us in a wonderful way. And then they drive all the insurance companies onto a level field of play and say, have at it, boys. Here's your field of play. And this is where, for most people, it starts to go a little sideways. And I'll give you that because Medicare is giving us massive amount of options that can be confusing. But let's start with our basic benefits, A and B. Those are listed right here. A and B, good but not complete. And now you have your choice. And this is where it gets fun for Lori and myself because we get to design a program that's specific to your situation. You could have the penthouse or you could have the pup tent or something in between. But Medicare dictates what these packages are, not the insurance companies. Wait. So you're telling me that G from Blue Cross Blue Shield is similar to G from Mutual of Omaha? Nope. It's identical. Medicare says what G is, not the insurance companies. Yeah, but wait a second. I know my doctor takes Blue Cross Blue Shield. I've seen him for years. Does he even take Mutual of Omaha? No, sir. Wrong question. Does your doctor take Medicare? On this side of the equation, Medicare is primary. Medicare is the network. Medicare is the one that's adjudicating the bill. Medicare is the one that's doing all the paperwork and all the billing and all the negotiations. All the insurance companies doing is providing different packages, different levels of coverage. You'd say, my God, there's 10 of them. Why are there 10? Because Medicare is offering us choices, flexibility. It's not a one size fits all, one size fits most. one size winds up fitting almost nobody. Now you've got 10 choices here, but let's make it easier for you. Let's go to the big three, the three that have traditionally driven this market for years. And those are three packages of benefits known as F and G and N. And this is a good example of how cost sharing can potentially drive down premiums. F is a package of benefits, traditionally extremely popular for two reasons. One, very simplistic, very easy to understand. If you got F, all you do is write that check every month, mail it off to the insurance company, and F would literally have wiped out all of your exposure. The $1,484, the $185.50, the 5%, it even paid the $203 deductible, picked up the entire 20%. Very simple to understand. People loved it, and agents love to sell it. Why? Because it's the most extensive, which also means it's the most expensive. And agents, like Lori and myself, all agents in the business, just like your automobile guy or your homeowners, we get paid by the insurance companies. There should never be a bill to you to look at these programs and find out what's best for you. We would hope to win your business, as many agents do. But for years, we've been ragging on F because although it's the most extensive, what do we know about insurance companies? The more they do, they're happy to do it. But the more they do, the more they charge. And it didn't take long, if you were working with somebody that was more reputable, to take a look at F, and let's at least compare it to G. The only difference between F and G is that G, wait a second, there's an empty box there. What is that? That's the Part B deductible. So if you got your handout here tonight, write 203 in that box. That's your annual Part B deductible this year. So the only difference is that you have a deductible, true, but what does a deductible do for insurance premiums? Deductibles have a direct relationship to your premium. The higher the deductible, the lower the premium. The lower the deductible, the higher the premium. That's why you probably carry a deductible on your automobile insurance of $1,000 or $2,000, because you wouldn't be foolish enough to carry an insurance program on your car that had a zero deductible. I mean, my goodness gracious, that would be expensive. But that's what a lot of people have with F. Fact of the matter is, it's become so expensive that it is no longer marketed to new enrollees. If you're turning 65 after January 1st of 2020, you can't even get it. And I'm not going to take personal credit for it, but I would say for 15 years, Lori and I have been preaching the gospel. F is for foolish. It's overpriced. G has been a better value for years. Pick up that little deductible, and that's the only difference. Well, that and the fact that, 38 companies here want your business, 38 companies all doing G. And if we were looking at all of them, generally that is about $50 less per month than the F. $50 per month. That's $600 per year that the G is $600 less than the F. And what's the difference? Well, F is paying your 203. Yeah, but I'm giving you $600 to pay a $203 deductible. That doesn't seem like good value to me, and it's not. G is a much better place to be. And just that little deductible lowers your premiums, and that can make sense. Right now, the best you could get would be standard G. Get a $203 deductible. After that, everything's covered. We got 38 companies that want to sell you G, all using the same level of coverage, all using the same network called Medicare. So what's the difference? Well, the price can vary wildly between these companies. As you might imagine, smaller companies, names that you've probably never heard of before, they're trying to elbow their way onto this field of play. And they do us a great service, because by lowballing the market and trying to capture the bottom feeders that are out there surfing the web thinking they found a great deal because they saved $11 on their supplement over a name that you might have heard before. Yeah, but those smaller companies force the bigger companies to stay within striking distance. So this is somewhat of a self-correcting mechanism. Capitalism with complete transparency, competition, being able to see what everybody's doing. But the issue is, from our perspective, smaller companies have much fewer enrollees, smaller risk pools. And although that can work occasionally, too frequently, we find these smaller companies that literally can be insuring a couple of hundred people in Illinois. That'll work until one guy in that group needs a lung transplant, and then everybody's rates go crazy. We prefer here to stay with the big companies, A+ rated companies, companies that we know will be there in 20 years to pay claims. I'm reluctant to put anybody with a B- rated company just to save them a few dollars a month. This is where you really want to stay with the companies that have the best financial record and the best track record of minimal rate increases. G says pay a deductible will drive down your premiums. Look at N, growing in popularity, I think, because N mimics what most people have coming off of group coverage. N says not only will you pay the $203 annual deductible, but you'll also agree to doctor co-payments, and that's down here at the bottom. Once you've paid that first doctor payment of $203 or the blood panel or the MRI, whatever, that first annual $203, after that, virtually everything is covered with the exception of additional doctor visits. You'll pay up to $20 to see a doctor, up to $20 to see a specialist, and $50 if you go to the emergency room and they send you home. If they admit you, that's all covered. But after those doctor co-payments, the MRI, the CAT scan, the X-ray, the surgery, the 3 weeks in the hospital, the wheelchair, the iron lung, the kidney transplant, it's all covered. But because you've agreed to additional participation, insurance companies love that. You're digging deeper into your pocket. That drives premiums down further. You look at F, if you could get it today, it would be about $175 a month. G, probably around $125. We're talking a 65-year-old. N is going to be less than 100. Do the math. Make a fully informed decision. This is a place for rational assessment of needs, not for emotions that will drive you to spend too much money. If the N is $25 less than the G, well, that's $300 per year. Year one, everything's going to go up. And if they even went up equally, G would go up faster because it's got a bigger starting point, a bigger base. But that N makes sense, $300 a year in savings. Yeah, but N's got co-payments. I know. But even with $20 doctor co-payments, we'd have to look at N and say, yeah, but for $300 savings, I'd have to be going to the doctor more than 15 times a year for N to make bad choice. That's not most people. Most baby boomers at 65 are in better shape than their parents were at 55. F, no deductible. G, deductible, drive down premiums. N, deductible and co-payments, drive it down even further. But what about if I wanted to go even farther, dig deeper into my pocket? You'd want to know that G comes in two flavors. Standard G says pay the $203 deductible. After that, everything's covered. But G also comes in what they call a high deductible format. And I personally find that very interesting because I've got a $7,000 deductible. High deductible G says that I would be willing, right here in this number 2, I would be willing to accept an out-of-pocket maximum of $2,370. And I know we're insurance geeks and you missed that. You missed the critical component of a deductible where you pay everything up to that amount and then you're covered, and comparing that to an out-of-pocket maximum. That $2,370, that's an out-of-pocket maximum. They name it high deductible G, and I think they misname it on purpose. They don't want you to buy something that's that inexpensive. They want you to spend a lot of money. But the high deductible G says that you have a firewall, a worst case scenario of $2,370. Well, how do we get there? Well, your $203, that goes towards the $2,370, and your 20% goes there as well. But remember that 20% is after Medicare has taken their negotiated discount. Spend a night in the hospital, yeah, you're going to throw $1,484 at that $2,370 and spend longer days in skilled nursing. But when you look at a product that has a maximum out of pocket for doctors and facilities of $2,370, that's a breath of fresh air for me. And I think there's a lot of baby boomers out there that have been going to bed with a $6,000 and $7,000 deductible for years, that if they look at this and they research it and they deal with somebody who's willing to talk about it, most agents won't even bring it up. That's going to be a premium somewhere in the $40 to $50 range. This is amazing coverage if you understand your parameters. And what's happened here? No deductible, deductible, deductible and co-payments, higher out of pocket. That's one way to drive down expenses. And that's going to be one of the key components when we start to talk about advantage programs, but we're not there yet. Laura, you got any questions?
Yes. So one of the things that came up is, can you change your Medicare supplement plan every year? This is, even for all the clients that we have that are currently in Medicare, one of the most confusing things, because we are now soon to enter this Medicare open enrollment season, right? So for those of you who are currently in Medicare, who may be on a Medicare supplement or maybe on a Medicare Advantage plan and want to go back to a Medicare supplement. The thing about Medicare supplements, they're, like David said before, very much like a home and auto policy. They're really a secondary bill payer. They're standing behind Medicare. They're a policy that exists in perpetuity as long as you pay your premiums. They do not run on a calendar year basis. They're a permanent policy, meaning that you can change them any time of the year. Asterisk. The reason that I say that is because while you can change them any time of the year, there are parameters around being able to change your supplement in the form of what we call medical underwriting questions. So when you first come to Medicare, David said there was that window where you could go get a Medicare supplement 6 months before you activated Medicare and 6 months after. And you can actually make changes to that Medicare supplement anytime in that 6 months after activation of Part B. But once that window closes, and that's why we call it the golden ticket period, is because once that window closes, your ability to change your Medicare supplement, albeit you can change it any time of the year, is predicated upon your ability to answer medical underwriting questions. Medicare guaranteed that you could get a supplement, no questions asked, when you first came to the party. But now, if you want to make a change, Medicare says to these insurance companies, you can do whatever you want after the first 6 months. And in Illinois, 38 out of 39 of these supplement companies are going to ask you medical questions in order to make a change in your supplement. And if you can't answer no to every single medical question, they're going to say, thanks, but no thanks. You can keep what you've got. You're never going to be canceled from it, but we don't have to take you. The same goes for example, if you have a supplement with a specific company, and maybe you want to make a change within that company, right now, you're still going to be subject to medical underwriting. We do have one company in the state of Illinois, and only one, that never asks medical questions. So the nice thing for David and I as agents is that if people need to make changes and they do have some conditions that would disqualify them from making those changes with their current carrier, we do have the opportunity to move someone to that carrier.
Yeah, that's something that most states do not offer. And I often joke there's not a lot of blessings to living in Illinois, but one of them is that we do have a Medicare supplement company where even the guy is 84 with emphysema, not a problem. We can have that insurance company. They'll take him without any medical questions, but you've got to ask yourself, wait a second, a health insurance company that doesn't ask any medical questions? Isn't that kind of crazy? Well, they're so big and they have such a large risk pool that they know they're going to get the occasional lemon. They got that, but they've priced that into their product. So although they don't ask medical questions, we would typically see that they're a little bit more expensive than some of these other companies. But Lori's pointed out another pothole in the world of Medicare. There's an old adage that's very true. A little knowledge is a dangerous thing. And people kind of understand it. G is G, no matter who I get it from, and the network is the same network. So I'm just going to go with the least expensive company because every year I get to change, guaranteed, right? Wrong. And these people will make these decisions and bottom feed going with North Atlantic Coast Life Insurance Company. Who? You know, somebody that they didn't really research. We definitely want to shy away from the smaller players here. And you would find of the companies that are here, there's 5 or 6, I guarantee you've heard of their names before. But then there's 30, 32 that you're going to be scratching your head saying, I have never heard of that company before in my life. That should usually be a little bit of a red flag that you might not be going with the best option. And this is where you don't want to be penny wise and pound foolish. Yes, the bigger companies will probably be, and seriously, a few dollars more to go with a company that is a household name you've heard of before, whereas, you know, other people will sell their soul to save a few dollars, but I promise you they will rue that further down the road.
And I know we're going to talk about this, but so where the supplements are something that, although you can change it every year, they involve medical underwriting. On the flip side of that, if you look at this chart, the Part D drug plans, and on the right-hand side, all the Medicare Advantage plans, those are what's in play coming up during open enrollment. You can change Part D, or you can change Medicare Advantage, also known as Part C, only during open enrollment, but with no questions asked. So different things have different products have different rules.
Different timing. That's important to understand. A and B good, but not complete. We look at a supplement. It wouldn't be at all unusual that mom might like the G, dad's good with the N. One likes high deductible, the other one likes something a little bit more comprehensive. The one thing that we want to keep in mind is on the supplements, typically, there will be a household discount. And we want to take full advantage of that, because if mom and dad sign up with the same company, they're going to save money. Sometimes it's as little as 3 or 5%. I'll take it. Thank you very much. Most companies, 7% household discount, but a 7% household discount that only goes into effect once you both go effective. That's nice. It's a nice little bump, save some money. But we just 3 months ago now, we had one of the Medicare supplement companies rocked the supplemental world. They went from 7% to a 12% household discount. That sent ripples through the marketplace. Now, what are the big guys going to do? Everybody's looking at their competitor. They know what they're doing. Everyone is going to have to respond to that company. That's how capitalism works. Otherwise, they're going to continue to eat your lunch. And what was really interesting was, instead of saying, we'll give you the discount once your spouse signs up, now that company gives us this 12% discount simply if you're living with somebody that's over 60. It's amazing. The capitalistic dynamic of what's going on here and how these companies are forced to respond to each other. And we've seen literally over the last couple of years, now that F is no longer marketed to new enrollees because Medicare finally figured out it was overpriced for what it was doing. Well, all these companies that were doing big F business, what are they doing? Well, they've all jumped into G, and they're throwing very sharp elbows. It's great for the consumer. It's actually driving prices down on the G category. It's a beautiful thing to see. Capitalism works when it's kept on the rails. A and B good, but not complete. We pick up a supplement to make this whole pathway complete. We need a drug program. And again, the new sheriff in town in Medicare is going to tell these companies how they are going to do business. We currently have 29 drug programs to choose from. My God, why 29? That's so confusing. No, it's beautiful, because 29 companies all operating in the same space, they all have to find a niche. Some have gone after mail order, some for generics, some for brands, some only partner with Walmart or Walgreens, but all of them have to play by Medicare rules. Medicare says you don't have to take a drug program. If you don't want a drug program, you don't have to take a drug program. But beware, they're not forgetting about you. If you don't have creditable coverage, they'll wait for you. But every month that you went without creditable coverage, they're going to start assessing a late enrollment penalty. And it's negligible. It's nothing to worry about. It's like 38 cents a month. What's the big deal? Well, number one, the big deal is you'd be foolish to pass on a drug program, because even though you're not taking something today, and I know you're going to tell me everything's going to be a generic, maybe not. Because there's miracle drugs that are coming to market, and it's not unusual. We find people who passed on the drug program, I'm not taking anything. And anything I was ever going to take is going to be a generic. And that works until the doctor says, hey, you need to start taking this blood thinner. It's called Eliquis. It's a miracle. It's phenomenal. It's wonderful. It's like $600 a month. And you didn't take a drug program? That was foolish. But not to worry. Every year, even though you didn't take a drug program, like Lori said, the door opens, and we'll welcome you with open arms during the annual election period from October 15th to December 7th. You can change the drug program you've got now. Maybe your meds changed, or maybe capitalism has driven down pricing and there's a better value for you, or you never took a drug program, and that's okay. We're going to get you a drug program. Got to sign you up in that window. It doesn't go into effect until January 1st. And now you can get your Eliquis for as little as $30 a month. It's a beautiful thing. But oh, by the way, did I mention that late enrollment penalty? Because they're going to take all those months that you never had creditable coverage. And it could be a few months. It could be, in some instances, several years. And 38 cents a month, that's not a big deal. No, it's about $5 in penalties per year that you passed on the drug program. And it's not a one-time penalty. They put that on your premium every month for the rest of your life. And that usually has people jumping up and down. They're very angry, but it's because they didn't make a fully informed decision. And I get it. When these drug programs first came to market in 2006, most of them were 40, 50 bucks a month. And that was, well, a bad pun, a bitter pill to swallow, right? Because you're not even taking any medications just to avoid a penalty. I'm not going to pay 50 bucks a month for a drug program. I get it. But over the years, 50 became 40 and 40 became 30. 30, just about 5 years ago, we went below $20 a month for a drug program that would avoid penalties. And Lord forbid, it's there if something goes wrong. But then it went under 15. And this last year, we just went under $10 a month for a drug program. In fact, the least expensive drug program this year is $7.30 a month. And really, seriously, you tell me that you're going to expose yourself not only to the penalty, but Lord forbid you get caught with your pants down in March and here comes an expensive med and you didn't take a drug program. Admittedly, the drug program's open at $7.30 a month. The most expensive drug program is $147 a month. And you might figure out the $7.30 program is really good for generics. The $147 program is good for god-awful stuff. But even the $7.30 program would be beneficial if something went wrong. Is it the best for really expensive meds? Of course not. But you'll get support, you'll get protection, you'll get to avoid the late enrollment penalty. And if something were to change, every year, remember, we said Medicare, totally customizable to your particular situation, and we can change it through the aging process. That's where we can change your drug program every year. Every one of those 29 drug programs is going to choose what they can offer from the master formulary that Medicare allows to come to market. This is the menu of drugs that Medicare allows to come to market. Some things aren't even on that menu. Some of these brand new, really expensive meds, if you see it advertised on TV, double clutch, those are very expensive. But this master formulary, each of the 29 companies has to figure out where can they compete. Who do they want to compete with? Because the retailers here can make a tremendous difference. You always want to make sure you're with your preferred pharmacy, not just a participating pharmacy. They'll take your money with a smile, but a preferred pharmacy is where you're going to get your best value. But all of the companies are forced by Medicare to divvy up their meds into a 5-tier program. If you ever paid attention to your employer plan, you knew it was a 3-tier program. There was generic, there was a specialty, generic, brand, and specialty. Well, here we break it up into 5 tiers to facilitate even more specialization, even more competition. You'd see tier 1 drugs. Those are the super cheap generics. They typically have even a 0 copay for most of those tier 1 generics. Lisinopril, atorvastatin, levothyroxine sodium, rosuvastatin calcium. I could name dozens of them, but they literally would have a 0 copayment. Tier 2, these are newer generic drugs, relatively new to market. You might expect they're a little newer. They're going to be a little bit more expensive. Tier 3, these are drugs that are advertised on TV. They're much more expensive because they're brand name drugs. Tier 4, these are drugs that are advertised on TV by famous people. So Phil Mickelson is getting his little nudge off of his Enbrel. Tier 5 drugs, this is where we may find rate relief. These are god-awful medications, AIDS medications, anti-rejection drugs for transplants, chemotherapy that you might take in the privacy of your own. Wait a second, chemotherapy? I mean, I could take a pill at home, or I could go to the doctor's office and have it administered there. True. Now, you may not want to go to the doctor's office, and you may have seen the commercial on TV of the woman, and she's living in a beautiful home, and she's obviously rolling in dough because she's taking her chemotherapy. She gets it at the doctor's office, at the pharmacy, and she takes it in the privacy of her own home. It's a wonderful, beautiful, unbelievably expensive medication, but you've made your money. Spend it any way you want to spend it. I just want you to understand the value equation of what's going on. When you get these meds and you have your reasonable copayment, understand that the companies don't track your copayments. They're more interested in the actual retail value of the drug. Why is that? because all companies, all drug programs, whether it's an Advantage or standalone, have 3 stages of coverage. These 3 stages of coverage, called the initial stage, the donut hole, or the coverage gap, into catastrophic coverage. We move through these stages of coverage based upon the retail value of your drugs. And I'm making this simplistic. If there's a CMS shopper in the room, I'm not trying to mislead anybody, but I want them to get the big picture, the understanding here that most of these drug programs have an annual deductible. Once you've met the annual deduct, your first Eliquis is going to run you. It's a $600 drug. Most of the drug programs this year have a $445 deductible. You'll knock that out with your first Eliquis. Then you're in your initial stage of coverage, and depending on which of the 29 drug programs that you're in, you could pay as little as $25 a month for that Eliquis. $25 for a $600 drug, that's a deal. Yeah, but they aren't tracking your 25. They're tracking the $600 that's the value of the drug. If the value of your drugs this year was to exceed $4,130 worth of drugs, that's what's going to move you from the initial stage of coverage into the coverage gap. What happens there? You're now responsible for a higher percentage of participation in the cost of your drugs. In fact, you'd go from $20 for your Eliquis. It's a $600 drug. Here in the gap, you'd pay 25% of $600. That's $150 a month. That'll get your attention. And we get these calls all the time, usually towards the end of the year. People, if they're going to fall into the coverage gap and they cross this threshold, it seems to happen every year, October, November, December. We get a lot of phone calls. My neighbor said I should talk to you. You're the Medicare guy. What's going on? Well, tell me. Well, I've been going to Walgreens every month and my meds have been $87. And I just went to pick up my meds. They want $436 for the same meds. What's going on? I don't know, but it sounds to me like you've fallen into the coverage gap. And they normally say, I can't have fallen into the coverage gap. I've only spent like $800. No, sir. It's not what you've spent. It's the value of the medications that you've acquired that drive you towards this coverage gap and have you paying more for your meds. You can get out of jail. You can get out of the coverage gap. You can get to this 3rd stage called catastrophic. Your co-payments come way down, but it can cost you a small fortune to work your way through those stages of coverage. We want to see this 8 lanes wide. We want to know that this is potentially out there. We want to know if there's evasive action to be taken. It's pretty simple. You've got 29 drug programs, 29 different premiums. All of them have the coverage gap. All of them have different formularies. So all you need to do is call all 29 companies and spend about an hour with each of them. You don't want to do that. We'd go to Medicare.gov. We do this for our clients. In a world where we want to find out what does the future look like, starting October 1st, when we see the new drug programs for next year, we can give you a very clear vision of the future based upon what you're currently taking. Yes, that could change, but we'll be able to see all the companies competing for your business as of October 1. Currently, there's 29. I hope there's 35. I want more competition. I want more people fighting for your business. We go to preview health and drug plans and we enter in your medications. And here's an example of a guy we ran this year. This particular program is $25 a month. There's that $445 deductible. Not all of the programs have a $445 deductible. The $90 drug program has no deductible. I know, but it's a $90 premium. And maybe that represents better value, but we certainly want to understand the higher the premium, the lower the deductible. This particular program, $25 a month. Here's their preferred pharmacy, CVS. Usually there's more than one preferred pharmacy, but understand, I don't want to go to CVS. I want to go to Walgreens. Be my guest. But on this program, Walgreens is not a preferred pharmacy, and you'll pay a lot more. People make the right choice. They take the right drug program, and they go to the wrong retailer. What are you doing? And I'm always amused when people say, well, I didn't know that there was a preferred pharmacy. Really? You're telling me you've never had health insurance before in your life? Because your employer plan always had a preferred pharmacy. Sometimes they wouldn't even let you go anywhere else. You had to go there or you got no support at all. Here, we want to stay within the preferred pharmacies. Here's this report. What has he got? Atorvastatin, that's super cheap. After he's paid the deductible, it's zero. Oh, there's that Eliquis. This says it's worth $500 a month, but once he's paid off his deductible, he pays $30 for it. That's pretty cool for a $500 drug. Here's an inhaler. Okay, those can be expensive. He pays $30 for that after he's paid off this $445. But what happens here is he's running towards the coverage gap at $572 a month. Well, that means 572. Oh, there it is right there. In 8 months, he's acquired more than $4,130 worth of drugs. What happens then? Into the gap. And there he is. He's paying $125 for a $500 drug. His inhaler actually comes down. His other two go up a little bit, but notice that difference. It may not change your world, but you sure want to see it coming, because he's built a budget for $60 a month. And then in August, all of a sudden, surprise, it's $143.08. We want to see this coming. We want to utilize all strategies. We would look here at things like, for example, this Ventolin. I know because I've run it before. If you guys aren't hip to goodrx.com, that's a mistake. You should be looking at GoodRx as a reality check. You go to GoodRx, you're going to see that Eliquis is $600. So we know we're getting good value running it through our drug program. You go to GoodRx, I believe this Ventolin right now could be $12 a month. You don't need to be paying $30. But you'd want to look at that. You'd want to use all the tools in our tool chest to make sure that we're spending the least amount of money for our medications. You went in with your GoodRx coupon, you don't even want to run it through your drug program. You just want to give them cash and the prescription and usually the little coupon that you got to print out online to get lower prices for your medications. Some of our clients are utilizing Canada. I'm not sanctioning any of this. I'm saying that you need to have a heart-to-heart discussion with your doctor about your medications, because doctors are brilliant at fixing stuff, but not always in tune with what that stuff costs. You need to be bringing them a reality check. Look, doc, this is what I'm paying. What am I taking? Why am I taking? Are there generics? If I lost 10 pounds, let's get aggressive here, because these medications will chew you up. Many people, and I get it, they fixate on the price of the supplement because the supplements are expensive, and they don't pay enough attention to the Part D drug programs. But I assure you, those co-payments, the donut hole, the drug program can chew you up. You need to pay close attention to it. Lori, you got questions?
Yeah, so that kind of parlays well into a question someone had about, do you have to get, well, so I'm just an anal person. So do you have to get Plan D? Actually, we're talking about Part D. Part D is actually different than Plan D. Plan D is actually a Medicare supplement, but Part D is the drug plan. So just clarification there. Do you have to get it through Medicare only? It's only available through Medicare. It's brought to you by a private insurance company. So David talked about the fact that there were 29 companies that have prescription drug coverage. Medicare manages all of these plans, but they're brought to you by private insurance companies. You, again, don't have to get one, but as David said before, you are going to start accruing a penalty for every month that you coulda, woulda, shoulda had a drug plan and didn't get it. And then if you want to get one down the road, the only time you can jump into one is during the Medicare open enrollment season, and that plan will start January 1. But on the other hand, you don't have to fill all your drugs through your Medicare drug plan. So on one hand, given the fact that the cheapest drug plan this year is $7.20, it's almost penny wise and pound foolish to not pay even the lowest premium plan to avoid accruing a Medicare penalty. That's just an insurance agent talking. You know, better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. But on the other hand, you don't have to fill all of your drugs through your Medicare drug plan if you can find a cheaper way to get your drugs. So there may be a drug that on Medicare is $30, but if you went to GoodRx and used one of their coupons, you maybe could get it for $8. Have at it. Use your GoodRx coupon. You only have to have a drug plan, but you don't have to fill all your drugs through that drug plan. So hopefully that makes a little more sense.
Yeah. The other thing that we see frequently is the concept when we see people that want a checkup. They're not really sure if they made the right move. Well, let's have a reality check. And one of the dead giveaways is when they've made a less than fully informed decision. We can tell pretty quickly that they've worked with a captive agent. A captive agent is somebody that's working exclusively with one insurance company. Why? Generally speaking, it's because they're just starting out in the industry. And generally speaking, it's because that company is feeding them leads. You called the company calls the agent comes to you, and the agent is obligated, because they're working that lead from that company. They're only going to show you product from that one company. That's a huge mistake, in my opinion. You want a broad selection of everything that's available in the marketplace. And we'll see people this time of year where mom and dad have the drug program and the supplement all from the same company. I'm not saying it can't happen, but I'm saying it's a pretty rare occurrence. Usually, we're looking at the drug programs, and you would find that dad's needs are different than mom's needs. That's why we broke them apart when they turned 65. Mom may be the picture of health, dad may not be. One's a marathon runner, and one is almost in an iron lung. We see it all the time. It's like opposites attract. Well, to put them both in the same one-size-fits-most drug program, that's a mistake. But when you're working with a captive agent, they're going to say, Mr. and Mrs. Client, good news, you qualify for the least expensive drug program from our company, and it's $34 a month. Yeah, but if you looked at the entire market, you'd see that the best drug program for you is really $15 a month. And that's where this Medicare.gov allows us to show you every drug program and find the best drug program for you. And this intersection of value on the drug programs, it's what you're taking and where you'd be willing to go get it. That's a problem too. People don't understand that. We'll work with folks and they'll say, well, I only want to go to Walgreens. Great. Then we're only going to look at the 8 programs that feature Walgreens as a preferred pharmacy. But just for a moment, could you walk across the street to Osco and save $700 per year? Why, yes, I could. In that world, you want to look at all of your options. And most people are going to start here with this original Medicare platform, A and B primary, add a supplement, add a drug program. Wouldn't be unusual that mom and dad would have different supplemental needs. Let's take the best of the best and the best of the best. Very common that they should have different drug programs because they have different needs. But people will start here, and it's what your parents did, it's what your friends did, your family members. And it's not unusual that usually 5, 6, 7 years down the road, you'll find dad sitting at the kitchen table, and he's got a calculator and a pencil, and he's going through the explanation of benefits, everything they've done in the last year medically. And he's looking at the bills. And, babe, when we started this journey, this was pretty reasonably priced. But here we are 8, 9 years further down the road. And between my supplement and my drug program, we're dropping $250 a month. And between your supplement and your drug program, we're dropping another $250 a month. That's $500 a month. That's $6,000 a year. And as far as I can tell from the explanation of benefits sitting here in front of me, we went to the doctor a total of 5 times last year. Did we really get our money's? We get $6,000 worth of benefit with 5 doctor visits. And that's usually what triggers a review with us. We'll get referred by friends or family, and we'll kind of analyze the fact that maybe, I don't mean to rain on your parade, but we did say F was for foolish, and here you got F. You're paying a ton for a 0 deductible health plan. Do you carry a 0 deductible on your automobile insurance? Why, no, we don't. Of course you don't. It's ridiculously expensive. The G would make sense, but you don't go to the doctor enough. The N could make sense. And we've got a company that doesn't even ask medical questions. We can make that move. And I'm sorry, you didn't look at your drug programs for 7 years? And meantime, your premium on your drug program has gone up, while the drugs you're taking, lo and behold, look, they've gone generic. And you might have chosen brilliantly when you turned 65, but now things have changed and you've not even looked at it. So changing the drug programs can be a very, very good opportunity to drive premiums down. And it's a good feeling when you can save people $100, $200, $300 a month by helping them make better informed decisions. But this whole concept of original Medicare is now facing increasing competition from the idea of a Medicare Advantage plan. And this is relatively new. It's really come into vogue in the last 15 years that I've been in the business. Medicare Advantage is a different idea. We said the federal government is not running Medicare for the $148.50 that you're sending them each month. They're dropping closer to $850 a month on every person that's enrolled in Medicare. They will partner with private insurance companies, and they will pay those private insurance companies to take you off their hands. Medicare kind of likes it because now you're no longer calling them with problems. You're no longer sending your bills through them. You're no longer doing any adjudication of billing whatsoever. They've divested you over to a private insurance company, and now the private insurance company steps in and runs the whole show. Yes, you still must have A and B. You're not getting away from that. You're paying your Part B premium. And if you're paying IRMA, you're paying the IRMA on the B and the IRMA on the D, even though you're over here. But on this side of the equation, you're not paying a premium for the Part D. You're not paying a premium for the Medicare supplement. You're giving to get. But think about that couple for just a second. They know this next year they've got solid gold coverage, right? They've got the F. Whether they go for 5 knee replacements or they don't go to the doctor at all, they're not worried because they know with F they've got 100% coverage, but they're paying through the nose. If they were to conceptualize the idea of Advantage, and here you're giving to get, you're agreeing to network restrictions and you're agreeing to co-payments for services, but that exchange combined with the government paying them a stipend each month can drive premiums down. And that's what's being advertised like crazy on TV. This zero premium plan. Wait a second, how do they do it? Well, they do it because they're getting money from the government, and you're agreeing to their network restrictions, and you're agreeing to co-payments. But the idea on Advantage is very intriguing if you're willing to give to get. But again, understand, Medicare's the new sheriff in town. Medicare is running the show. Medicare tells these companies how they're going to provide these benefits, and Medicare draws up the rules of engagement. All Medicare Advantage programs will be more restrictive. Medicare is Medicare is the overall availability of doctors. Advantage programs will be more restrictive. In their initial infancy, 15 years ago, they were all HMOs. We had 6 of them. You had to keep everything with Advocate or everything with Edward Group or everything with Northwestern. You couldn't venture outside to have an Advocate primary and a Northwestern dermatologist. No, that's what an HMO is. But what's happened is from that HMO chassis, these guys are making so much money that now they've figured out we can do a PPO and still keep it even at a zero premium plan. Well, wait a second. You said the more the insurance company does, the more they charge you. So how come the PPO has got a zero premium as well? Because the PPO, by definition, is going to have higher co-payments. It's going to have a broader network and higher co-payments. That's how they can afford to keep the premium down. Key component. All of these programs are going to have some form of capped exposure. Remember where we started. A and B really good. A and B unlimited benefit. A and B unlimited exposure. Hang on a second. There's no firewall. That's why we look to pick up this additional coverage on this original Medicare pathway. On Advantage, here at least, if you've done nothing else, you've put in a stopgap firewall that is going to prevent unlimited exposure. Now, depending on the program, if it's an HMO, they're controlling what you can do. Well, then you might assume the co-payments are lower and the out-of-pocket is lower. Yeah, but you're agreeing to stay within their network. Okay, with a PPO, you get more selection, but that translates into a higher out-of-pocket and higher co-payments. But with all these programs, we can look and see if your doctor is in one of the 52 Advantage programs that are currently available this year. And I'd have to predict, if history is any indicator, there will be even more next year. All of them are going to have co-payments for services, but one company's co-payment structure is different than another, just like the networks are different. All of them will have capped exposure. On an HMO, you'd look to be somewhere around $3,000 out of pocket, maybe a little less, a little more, but a good ballpark. On a PPO, that out of pocket is going to be higher because they're doing more. They're giving you more flexibility. In that, you would want to understand the difference between the different companies and what they're offering you from a benefit perspective. Most of them will include a Part D drug program built right into the chassis. Well, they want to get as many people as they possibly can. So sometimes in the Advantage, you'll find your drug is treated more favorably in the Advantage concept than it would be here in the standalone world. You'd see that they're all available to you, and that's what's coming up right now. Every other commercial is going to be on TV. Joe Namath is making a fortune hawking Advantage programs, talking about all the benefits that you're entitled to. Spare me. Let's look at those benefits very closely. Dental, vision, hearing, yeah, that sounds good, but it's kind of like earrings and lipstick. It's not the major reason that you're buying the insurance. The insurance is to protect you if something goes wrong. Is your doctor in network? Well, we want to make darn sure of that. Are you going to the doctor a lot? You might not want to get into a program with big co-payments, but those advertisements on TV, they drive me crazy. 0 premium, 0 copays. And I don't see the asterisk that should be floating in that statement, because it might be a 0 copay to see the primary, but I assure you, the specialist, the MRI, the CAT scan, the X-ray, the surgery, there's co-payments for all of that. Not a bad thing, but we certainly want to understand the parameters. The devil is in the details, and that's why we're very specific when we're working with folks on Medicare Advantage. Every year during this annual election period, you can move to Advantage. They don't even ask you any medical questions. They'll welcome you with open arms. They're happy to receive you into their loving embrace. You can try this Medicare Advantage program. Medicare would be happy if you wanted to try it, and they even protect you. Your new best friend in the world gives you a 1-year trial right. Anytime in that first year you don't like Advantage, and it's the first time you've been in an Advantage program, that could be when you're brand new to Medicare or when you're 85. You have the ability to try it for a year, and anytime in that first year you don't like it, we can bring you right back over, put you back in your drug program and your supplement. That's guaranteed. It's called your trial right. And that should bring your blood pressure down a little bit. You look at the benefits that are involved in this program. We talked about that couple over here at 73, 74. They're dropping close to $6,000 a year, whether they go to the doctor or not. Let's think about that for a second. You put $6,000 into the cookie jar, and you think about a world where, well, yeah, he went to the primary 3 times and the specialist twice, and she had that MRI. They weren't quite sure, but that worked out okay. 2 specialist visits, and he cut his finger carving the turkey at Thanksgiving. He'll never live that down. That was a trip to the emergency room. But you add up all of those expenses on an a la carte menu basis, and you can see where potentially at the end of the year, they could have potentially saved an awful lot of money. Well, you said over here they were dropping $6,000, and over here, if they did an HMO, their worst case scenario is $3,000 on each of them. And that's if it all went sideways. Hard to imagine that that could happen simultaneously, but maybe it does. So over here, their worst case scenario could be less than what they're paying over here in premiums. It's an interesting concept. It bears investigation, and you'll be getting pummeled. One of the things that infuriates me is you'll get calls from companies offering you a 0 premium drug program. Well, heck, that sounds good. Over here, I'm paying $35 a month. And people will sign up for an Advantage program, not even realizing what they've done. They talk to these people on the phone who put them into an Advantage program. And true, honest to goodness, it's a 0 premium drug program, but understand what you've done. Now you've gone Advantage. Now you have network restrictions. Now you might be surprised further down the road. I don't go crazy. I never try to go crazy, but people will tell me, no, I spoke with the guy on the phone and I told him my agent is David Wiley. And they said, yes, we work with David Wiley, not to worry. He'll get credit for the sale. I don't get credit for the sale. These people are selling snake oil, and you got to be really careful of these phone calls that you get. Be very careful of visiting websites. Understand that the details here need to be explored. Don't just jump into Advantage without fully understanding what's going on. It's not a bad thing, but people see an 800 number and a floating Medicare card, and they believe they're calling Medicare. That's not a good thing. These HMOs and PPOs have become so popular in an effort to reel you in. They really do. They have some dental and some vision and some hearing aid benefits that can be very good. You want to understand those. They virtually all offer a gym club membership. That's real interesting too. but don't sell your healthcare needs for shiny objects. Understand exactly what you're doing in these programs. That's critically important to make a fully informed decision. Laura, you got questions?
No, but I mean, I just came across an example this year of again, kind of per David's editorial here. We had a client who thought she was purchasing a dental vision and hearing program because she wanted to make sure that she got all the benefits that she was entitled to. So she signed up for this plan that included dental vision and hearing, and she really, really wanted dental. And she marches to her doctor in January for, whatever. And then subsequent to that visit, she gets a bill from her doctor's office. And she called the doctor's office and said, "Why did I get this bill?" And the doctor's office said, "Because apparently the plan that you have, we don't take." And she said, "What do you mean? I have Medicare." And they said, "No, you don't. You have something called," and I won't give the name, but she said, "No, that's just my dental vision and hearing plan." And they said, "I don't think so." So then, of course, she called us in a panic. What did I do? What did I do? And sure enough, the agent on the phone sold her a Medicare Advantage plan, which basically canceled out her Medicare and her Medicare supplement. And the plan that she got enrolled in, her doctor was not in network with that plan. What irks me is that the agent on the phone never looked up the doctor, never bothered to even consider her physician needs. So luckily, Medicare does have what's called an open enrollment period that lasts, because obviously this has started happening more frequently. So about 2 or 3 years ago, Medicare created a period between January and March where if people got put into a Medicare Advantage plan and they didn't realize what happened, they were able to get out of it and either get into a plan that their doctor was in or go back to original Medicare to what they had before. So it just, I think it speaks to the disingenuous nature of the advertising, both in print and on television, and the phone calls that you will be getting during this time of the year, unfortunately. And David and I just want to apologize for an industry that does that, because it's just not right.
Well, look, we've gone on far too long. Thanks for sticking around. I'm sorry I shouldn't have had a cup of coffee, but if nothing else, what we've learned here tonight, hopefully, is enough to make you dangerous. You know now that original Medicare is really good, but it's not complete. We would pick up a supplement and a drug program, and that would complete one pathway called original Medicare. Or we could certainly entertain the possibility of a Medicare Advantage program. Both sides have their positives. Both sides have their negatives. What we try to do is help people navigate this world. We're brokers. It's never a charge to you to meet with us. What we do is try to help you find the best value in the marketplace, hopefully keep you happy and well covered for years to come, and hopefully have you telling your friends that there's a place where they can go for information that would be beneficial. Lori and I are both brokers. We have an office here in Lisle. We can meet with you on Zoom. We're coming up on a very crazy period of time called the annual election period. If you don't go through us, that's okay too. But I would recommend find yourself a broker, preferably a local broker. You're talking to somebody in Florida, they don't understand the rules of the engagement here in Illinois, and teleservice is all over the place blanketing you with calls. Making a fully informed decision is in your best interests. I hope you take that away from this here tonight. And I just want to thank you for bearing with us. This was a little longer than normal. It's probably the coffee. Omar, you got any more questions for us?
No, I just wanted to say I'll pause the record or end the recording in a moment in case maybe somebody had like a question they wanted to verbally ask. But I wanted to thank everybody for coming out here this evening. I mean, I stayed for the whole thing. I certainly learned a lot. My parents are in that age group where if they haven't gotten their Medicare yet, they're just starting to dip their toe in that if they haven't already. So I've learned a lot, and I'm sure I'll confer with them what plan that they're using and say, well, based on what David and Lori said, maybe you don't have to use Plan F. Maybe you could use Plan G or along those lines. So no, I found the whole thing very informative. Thank you again, everybody, for coming out here today. As I said earlier, I included the link to the handout, but I will be emailing the handout to everyone, as well as when we upload this recording to YouTube, we'll include the link as well. So maybe it might take a little bit longer for the handout because I don't want to email you twice, but we will email you with both the link to the recording and the handout. And again, a big thank you to David and Lori for coming out here this evening. And with that, I will be ending the recording.
Very good. And then certainly, Omar, if you can open it up, if anybody hasn't fallen completely asleep, if you've got any questions, we'd certainly love to entertain them. That's always better for us.
I would also point out that if you go to our website, MedicareSolutionsNetwork.com, the red on that last slide, we have a listing of additional upcoming educational seminars. So, if you've got friends or somebody who was going to, come tonight that couldn't, you might want to take a look and see any of the upcoming ones that we're having over the next couple of weeks.